These are the skills that I find myself consistently falling back on when I'm doing paid work. This is a video for those of us who are just trying to earn a little bit of money on the side with our photography, get paid for our work, get paid for our art, which everyone should be getting paid for their art, so no shooting for free. This is not one of my skills. This is just like a preliminary learn how to shoot manual. If you are charging for photography services, you need to learn how to shoot in manual. Whether or not you use manual is a different story, but at least know how to shoot in manual so that if the need comes up, you can do it. I know there's plenty of photographers who might shoot in like shutter or aperture. It depends on what type of photography you're doing also. Know how to shoot in manual before you ask anyone for money for your work. So the first skill, and probably the most common skill that I find myself having to fall back on when doing paid shoots, is being able to adjust my settings quickly. And when I say quickly, I mean barely even taking the camera away from your face to adjust the settings. Sometimes not at all. Especially when you're shooting outside, conditions can change so fast, and that is a mistake. This video is really based on the mistakes that I've made. I've made the mistake of having, certain settings and the conditions are bright, it's sunny, and then actually, no, not as much. It's really the opposite. Conditions are cloudy. I have a certain ISO, I have a certain aperture, and then the sun comes back out. I don't change my settings, and what do you think happens? We know what happens. The images are overexposed and terrible. And that's the thing. When you're working with kids, when you're working with animals, when you're working with people who just aren't professional models in an environment that isn't controlled, you're going to have to need to adjust quickly. When I do horse photography, equine photography, I literally have like milliseconds to switch my settings. And maybe that's why I've gotten so good at it recently, but it really is a matter of catching split seconds, and the difference between a really good photo and a really bad photo can sometimes be how fast you're able to adjust to the scene in front of you. The second skill that I would say that I fall back on a lot is my photographic eye. You should at least have a partially developed photographic eye. I say partially because that's something that is always growing, always changing. Like as a photographer, your eye is constantly going to get better. It's just going to get better. There's always more to learn. There's always more to experiment with new subjects. So I'm not saying that you need to be at the peak of your creative game to be able to charge for your photography, but you should at least have it partially developed so that when people are paying you, they are paying for something more than just you to click the shutter button. It comes very natural to some, and some people have to really practice it regardless, but it's about training. It's about training your eye to look at a scene, look at a subject, and be able to compose an image in your mind's eye before you even go to take the picture. And I feel like that has a lot to do with intention and taking intentional photos and not just putting people boom smack in the middle of an image and just being like there you go. It's about learning how to analyze lighting. It's learning how to analyze lines, shapes, all of these different things that come together to be your style and affect the end result of your image. The way that I see it is when people are paying you to take photos, they're not just paying you to take a picture, because they could hand any camera off to anyone, including an iPhone or any phone, and click it and it be a good enough picture. So I feel like they're not really paying you to click the button. They're paying for your eye, they're paying for your skill, they're paying for your equipment, and they're paying for your creative vision. And that is the difference between someone who just has a camera and just, shoots 100 pictures a second, and a photographer, is that eye, that vision. And so I feel like that is really a very fundamental part of being paid for your work. Another skill that I think is very important is consistency in your editing and just strong editing skills in general. When you show clients or potential clients your portfolio and they say, yeah, I want to hire you to take my family portraits, They're hiring you based on your previous results. So you need to be able to consistently replicate those results. And obviously you can experiment. Obviously not every picture has to be edited the same, and it shouldn't be, but it's more about the consistency, and consistency is definitely worth something in art. And more than even art and services, like consistency is important when someone is paying you to do something based on previous results. And we never stop learning when it comes to edit. I mean, in photography in general, like I can just repeat that over and over. We never stop learning. So I'm not saying that like you're expected to be able to repeat the same image over and over and over again, the same editing style. It's about ability, it's about confidence, and it's about being able to guarantee something so that you aren't like handing them something that they are going to be like, that's really not what I was expecting. That's nothing like the pictures I saw in your portfolio. And you'd be like, well, those were actually just like a one-off thing. I don't know how I did that. Like you should really always be practicing editing and working on developing your consistent editing style so that when people hire you, they know what they're going to get. And I feel like, actually, I was going to like bring up like the sepia bride thing. I'm not even going to go there, but like, it's those sorts of things that happen. And I don't know who was right, who was wrong. I don't really do a lot of research in that, but you never want your client to get a result that they're like, whoa, that is nothing like what I thought this was going to be. Now we can talk about the most important skill in photography and any sort of business, any service ever, and that is communication. When I first started doing shoots, I had a lot of trouble communicating with clients what I needed from them, whether that's poses, whether that's, placing them in different parts of the scene. I don't know if it was it must have been a combination of confidence and just like being kind of a more like timid, like I don't want to boss them around type of thing. No, boss them around respectfully, because that's going to result in better photos. And in the end, they want better photos. I felt really awkward giving people directions, like pose this way or do this with your head, and then they would try to do it and they wouldn't be able to do it, and then I'd have to keep correcting them over and over again, and it just felt like I was like being like naggy, and it just felt unprofessional to be communicating with clients and then be like, huh? I don't really understand. You want your clients to understand what you are trying to communicate with them. You are supposed to be the professional. You are supposed to be the one who is helping them feel more comfortable on camera, helping them pose better. Whether or not posing takes time. Like learning how to pose other people, it's something that I still am not great at. I have to pull up Pinterest every single shoot to like help me pose people. But that's also part of communication, is being able to go up to the client and say like, hey, this is what you look like right now, and this is kind of what I want. So can you just you need to be able to do that respectfully, efficiently, clearly. And here's the thing. I have made the mistake of not communicating with clients effectively, what I wanted them to look like, how I wanted them to pose, how I wanted them to dress. But I gave clients like the vaguest directions. They didn't understand them. I didn't correct them after already being corrected. And so the pictures didn't really come out that great because they looked awkward. And that's my fault. And I didn't think of it as being my fault, because it's like, well, they don't know how to pose. So those are just the images that they are going to get. No, that's also a part of your job, is to be able to communicate with people who know nothing about posing, nothing about photography, and be able to pose them in a way that they feel comfortable, number one. Or even if they're not comfortable, it doesn't really matter, because it's about the end result. They'll appreciate it in the end, trust me. Be vocal about the way you want them to pose, what you want them to do. Be vocal about when you need them to show up on time. You really need to advocate for your work so that they get the best result possible. And if you are taking like pet portraits or anything like that where you really can't communicate with them, I don't know anything about that. So, I mean, good luck to you with that one. I do the horses, and the horses is quite a time. The horses test me every single time, and I've never been paid to take pictures of a dog, so I can't help you with that. That is all for me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any other tips, obviously there are probably a million more tips that someone who's actually a professional could give you that I can't give you. So hopefully if any professionals are watching this, comment below any other tips, comment any struggles that you find when you are doing paid shoots, and subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about photography and other things relating to photography and travel and life and living a good creative lifestyle. Bye.